What up, guys? So, I wanted to make a video about realistic expectations from cold approach. So, cold approach is really awesome. I mean, you can meet some really great, attractive women, but it does have its limits. The reason I wanted to make this video is because guys think that cold approach is the be all end all of dating, and they think they can get, oh, they're the hottest women at the drop of a hat. Like, I was talking to one guy and I asked him his goals, and he's like, I want to get to the point where I have a harem of nines. I'm like, dude, it's rare if you get a single nine from cold approach, more than one out of every, I don't know, hundreds or thousand plus approaches. A lot of guys get into cold approach because they think it's some kind of hack or workaround for general self-improvement. If you're doing not that great in dating, it's usually because a lot of times you don't really have anything going for you, or you do, but you just don't have the balls to get out there. But most guys, they just don't have anything going for them. So they basically think, well, instead of actually, going to the gym or making more money or moving out of my parents' house or doing literally anything, I'm just going to learn some lines and all this other crap. And hopefully I don't have to actually make myself better as a person. Cold approach, even though it's a great way to meet women, it is still difficult. All right. Anything in life that is worth having is going to be difficult. And like with most things, there's multiple ways to do it, but each way is still going to be hard. One way might be a little more or a little less difficult, or a little more or a little less effective or efficient, but any way you go about dating is still going to be hard. All right, so first I'm going to give my personal percentages as far as the attractiveness of the women I've hooked up with. So I've got about 250-ish lays. That's over the course of about 8 years, 9 years. So about 70% of the girls I've hooked up with are around a 7. So anywhere between what most guys would consider 6.5 to 7.5. All right. About 15% of them are around an 8. And then only 5% of them are higher than an 8. So 5 or maybe even a little bit less percent of all the girls I've hooked up with in all the 8 years, with everything I've done, are like the really, really, really hot girls. Okay. And the other 10% is the what most guys would consider the less than attractive girls. So anyone who knows me, they know that I have a thing for just huge fucking boobs. All right. So if a girl has big enough boobs, I will basically ignore everything else about her. All right. I've been with some girls who are like over 200 pounds, but they have like double M cups or some shit. So I don't care. That's my thing. Everyone has their own whatever specific thing they like in girls. That's just mine. I'm just being 100% open and honest. I don't want you guys to think like, oh, I just get infinite hot girls all the fucking time. Like these are my personal percentages. All right, so got some little notes down here. Okay, so different guys, they'll have higher or lower percentages depending on a whole bunch of different factors. A big one is probably SMV. So if a guy had all my knowledge and experience and he was 4 inches taller and better looking, he would do a little bit better than me. Like, that just makes sense. Now, people think that if you have a high SMV, that your percentages go up like ridiculous, like 3, 4, 5 times as much. But anyone who's approached knows that that's not true. You're always going to get, most of the time, rejected. Most of the girls you hook up with are still not going to be the super hot girls. That is just that's just the way it is. So, a guy who is taller and better looking than me, maybe instead of 15% of the girls being an 8, maybe they'd have 20 or 25%. or something like that. Okay, the actual numbers don't really matter. The point I'm trying to get across is that the majority of girls that the average guy hooks up with who consistently cold approaches, they are just attractive. They're cute. They look good, but they're not like holy shit hot. All right, so one way I could increase the percentage of girls I hook up with that are just very attractive is obviously if I only approach them. Okay, obviously if I only approach girls who are 8 or higher, then those are the only ones I'm gonna hook up with. But I personally, I just I just care about the girl meeting my minimum looks threshold. So as long as I look at her and I'm like, okay, yeah, I would, then I'll go approach her. Let's see. So I actually think that you should still approach the and like hook up with the less attractive girls for a couple reasons. One is that the less attractive girls, now I'm not saying ugly girls, I'm still saying girls who are like decently attractive, again, like 6.5 to 7.5, like they're still attractive, but just not super hot. You want to still go for those girls because one is they tend to stick around a little bit longer and they tend to treat you a little better and they're just kind of smoother relationships, you know. Um, Especially if you're like a fairly good looking or in shape guy, like they're aware of kind of the SMV difference or that you have options. So they tend to be uh, a little bit, I don't want to say nicer because that implies that hot girls are just bitches all the time, but you know, they tend to treat you a little bit better. And let's see. Oh yeah. So secondly, so if you are approaching the less attractive girls, then you have a bigger rotation and it actually makes you less needy for when you get the more attractive girls. So if I'm seeing 4 girls and one of them is an 8 and the other 3 are 7s, well, I'm not going to be as needy and I'm not going to be super invested and worried about losing the 8. I mean, still I'd want to keep her obviously, but if I have 3 other girls in my rotation, then if that 8 leaves, then I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, it sucks, but it's not really a big deal. Whereas if I was only approaching the 8s and I just had that one girl, then I'll probably be a little more needy or I'll probably be a little more affected if I lose her because then I'll go from 1 to nothing. All right, so next up. So why is it so rare to hook up with the hotter girls from cold approach specifically? So the most obvious one is obviously there's just less of them. So there's less to actually approach. So just on a number, like on a number basis, there's just less of them. But also, there's just a lower chance you meet their standards. The more attractive a girl is, she's going to have higher standards. Now, one thing I will say is usually when a girl is more attractive, her physical standards do increase, but they don't increase by that much. The more attractive a woman is, a lot of the increases in their standards come from non-physical things. So like, you know, confidence and you can hold your frame, status, money. Sometimes it kind of depends. You know, the girl doesn't have to be a gold digger to still be attracted to a guy that has money because it shows, oh, he's intelligent or he's successful or has all these other traits. Okay. So there's just a lower chance you meet their standards. I'm totally fine with the fact that there's plenty of girls who I've thought were attractive and I approached them, or maybe we even went on a date, and for whatever reason, they didn't think I was good enough. A lot of guys, they kind of avoid approaching the more attractive girls because if they get rejected, then it kind of stings a little bit more because it's like, oh man, a really hot girl, the one I really, really, really want. Like, oh man, I'm just never going to live up to her standards. And it kind of like more emotionally affects them. But I'm very realistic with myself. I know that I'm not super good looking. I'm in pretty good shape, but not super good looking. I'm not super tall. I'm 5'11". Yeah, I just know that there's some girls that just won't be into me, and I'm totally fine with that. But I'll still approach them because you never know. So the third one is the really hot girls are more likely to be, I call it captured by a hierarchy. All right. So in any given city or area, there are, you know, the high status men or, you know, organizations of some kind or some kind of social group. And basically, what they do, especially now with Instagram, is that they kind of scoop up and monopolize all of the really hot girls. So if a girl is a 9 or higher, it's almost guaranteed that she is captured by a hierarchy, which means she is already part of some fairly high status social circle, and she has a decent amount of her life invested in that social circle, and she's already trying to go for the guys at the top of that hierarchy. Okay. So when a girl is heavily invested in some social circle like that, she's going to be less likely to even consider guys outside of that hierarchy, because he's like an outsider. Like, so much of her life is invested in that social circle. It just doesn't make sense for her to hook up with a guy who's outside of it, even if normally you do meet her standards. So like maybe she just got into town or something and she's not part of the social scene yet. Maybe you approach her after she moved there a week ago, and she's like, oh yeah, cool, I like you, blah, blah, blah. But if she had been there for 4 years and she was already heavily ingratiated in the local scene, maybe then she's like, okay, well, yeah, you're cool, I like you, but like, you're just not part of my group, so I'm just not even gonna consider you. Okay. So if a girl is part of some type of hierarchy, there's a way lower chance that you are going to get with her. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I already said that. Second point. So, yeah, for all those reasons, it is just exceedingly rare that you would, from cold approach, hook up with a very attractive girl. The only way that you can really consistently get the extremely hot girls, and only the really hot girls, is if you are also part of some kind of high status social group in your area. At a certain point, you just kind of have to be in those circles. All right, so conversion rates. So most guys will max out anywhere between 2 to 4% approach to lay ratio, meaning that if you approach 100 girls, most guys will max out hooking up with 2 to 4 of those 100 girls. You might think that sounds like not a lot, but once you actually know the process, you see that actually makes sense. I mean, a third of girls are already in a relationship. You have another third who might not be in a relationship, but at the time you approach them, they might just not be in a good mood and don't want to talk to you, or they're at a period in life where they're like, no, I'm not seeing any new guys, or they're available, but they just don't like you specifically. They would maybe see some guy, but you just happen to not be her type. And then of the remaining ones, it could be that, we'll say you get the number and she enjoyed the conversation and she's like, oh yeah, I like that guy. But then she thinks about it and she's like, you know what? I just don't want to go on the date, or I'm not ready to meet a new person, or this is kind of weird, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of different reasons. When you take into account all the reasons for why girls would hook up with a guy or not hook up with a guy, 2 to 4% is actually, it makes perfect sense. And that's completely normal. Just like in baseball, if you're talking about batting average, if you have like 0.3 or 0.35 batting average, that's actually good, even though you're missing the majority of them. Like, that's just how the process is. How I kind of view it is, if you are fine with the attractiveness of the women you're getting and the number of them you're getting and the amount of time you spend getting them, then you don't really need to worry about conversion rate. Honestly, a lot of it's kind of almost a vanity metric that guys who do pickup use to brag to other guys who do pickup. But conversion rate numbers can actually be kind of manipulated to make it look like you're a little better than you actually are. So I'll give an example. So let's say my average conversion rate is about 3%. Okay. Let's say another guy, his conversion rate is 6%. So you might think, wow, he's twice as good as me. Okay. But let's say that the reason for that is that guy only goes after the easy approaches. I go after any approach, any girl that I see that I'm attracted to. I'll freaking run across the street. She's hopping on a bus. Okay, I'll real quick try to get her number. She's with 4 friends walking and have their headphones in. I don't give a shit. So if you're a guy, so those inherently have a lower chance of working out. Okay. But if you are a guy who only goes for the easy approaches, AKA the girl is by herself, standing still, not on her phone or has headphones in, she's inside like a grocery store or something, those types of approaches have a higher chance of working out inherently. So obviously, if you only approach those girls, you're going to have a higher number of them actually come out on a date. The problem is that the amount of girls that actually fit into that narrow set of circumstances is really low. So let's say over the course of 3 hours, another guy, a guy who's really picky, he does 10 approaches, okay? And I do 25 approaches. So let's say he gets, let's see. So he gets a 50% number rate, so he gets 5 numbers, but I only get a 33% conversion rate, all right? But that means 8 numbers. So even though I have a lower conversion rate, the fact that I approached more girls in the same time period, my way is actually more efficient if you look at it not by conversion rate, but by amount of time invested, okay? And then if you look at it as far as time spent on dates, so maybe a guy takes 2 to 3 hours to go on a date and he has a slightly higher conversion rate, but I only take 1 to 1.5 hours. So I'm literally spending, he would have to have double the conversion rate on dates to be more efficient than me on dates, me going only on like hour and a half long dates, okay? So yeah, you can do a lot of things to manipulate your conversion rates to make it seem like you're better than you are. Also, the majority of people just lie. They'll just inflate their own numbers. I'm like one of the only people I know that doesn't artificially inflate their numbers. That's probably why it sounds like my conversion rate's low, is because I'm not bullshitting you. I'm telling you the actual thing. The guys who say they're really strategic, this is a common thing. I'm strategic with my approaches. When people say I'm strategic with my approaches, that is code for I'm scared to do the harder approaches. Like, if doing approaches was actually easy for you and you didn't have any anxiety, you could do any one, then why not do the harder approaches? Because it's supposedly easy, right? Because it's not because you're scared. That would be like me asking someone, hey, take 10 steps toward me and I'll give you $100. And then I changed it to, okay, now take 20 steps instead. And they were like, oh, well, I really want to conserve my steps for the day and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, dude, steps are easy. Like, it should not be a big deal for you to just do 10 extra steps. Like, it doesn't make sense. If guys are strategic with their approaches, they mean I am too scared to do the harder approaches. When for my clients, I always have them do every single approach, okay? It helps build more confidence, more frame. Like, it just comes across in how they act. Like, they're ballsier, they're more bold. Like, you can tell. Every time you skip an approach, it kind of kills you a little inside. It's like, oh, that's a really hot girl. Oh, but she's too far away or she's with friends. I think every single time you skip an approach like that, it kind of lowers your confidence a little bit. All right, so last thing, how long do I maintain girls for? Okay, so of the girls I hook up with, approximately a third, maybe a little bit more, are one-time hookups, okay? Approximately a third of them will only hook up with me 2 or 3 times and then we stop seeing each other. And then a third of them we will hook up more than 3 times, regardless of if it's 4 or 20. And every once in a while you get a girl who just really likes you, like she's super attracted to you, you guys get along super well, whatever, and you maintain her for like 6 months, 9 months, a year, something like that, okay? Each guy's going to kind of have their own, it varies with each guy. Maybe some guy has a slightly higher retention rate or most of his hookups are just one time for whatever reason. But it is completely normal for a certain amount of girls to only see you once. And that's it. And it's not anything against you. It's just, hey, they wanted that experience. They liked you and now they had the experience and now they're done. There's some girls where they like you a little bit. They want to hang out with you for a couple times, but then just for whatever reason, the relationship runs its course. And then you're going to have some girls who are just disproportionately attracted to you. And they either become plates, or if you like her enough, you can actually make her your girlfriend. All right. So I think those are all the metrics I need to go over. I just wanted to give you guys a kind of a bird's eye view of what you can expect once you get good. Okay. When you're starting out and you're skipping a bunch of approaches and you're really nervous on the approaches and everything, you're going to have a lot less girls give you their number. You're going to convert a lot less from dates. You know, even on dates, you have to get good at being calm and comfortable the whole time, learning how to connect and kind of get to know her deeper, be more comfortable going for the pull, getting better at escalating back at your place, all that stuff. It's actually a pretty long process to get really good at everything so that you can just consistently approach girls and get lays. A lot of guys, when they're trying to get better at pickup, they're like, well, what's the line and what's this strategy for this specific situation? Like, no, you need to improve a lot of things, and you need to improve them one by one, chunk it down, and only move on when you have fixed that thing you're working on. It's a really long process. And the better thing, instead of finding the right strategy or the right trick or lines or whatever, is just pure volume. A guy who has, a really bad system, but he does 100 approaches a week, he will get better than the guy who is constantly researching and constantly changing his strategy and doing all this stuff. And maybe he even has a coach telling him the optimal thing to do, but he only does 10 approaches a week. Okay. Pure volume. Volume is not spam approaching. Okay. It is reps to get better. Okay. Remember that. Anytime someone says, oh, you're spam approaching, it's getting in the reps so you get better. Okay. So yeah, those are the realistic expectations. That is it.